You are listening to a reproduction of Housekeeper's Half Hour from the United States Department of Agriculture in 1926. Disclaimer: this broadcast is read from a historic archived document. Do not assume content reflects current scientific knowledge, policies, or practices. This broadcast was aired on the 18th of February 1926.
What to have for dinner. A new kind of meat is what every housekeeper sighs for as she turns over in her mind the possibilities for the day's meals. But for most of us, although we would be delighted to try reindeer meat or buffalo or whale steak if we could get it, the sane old domestic animals are all we have to choose from. Beef, pork, veal, lamb, the internal organs such as liver and heart, and the smoked or salted meats. These with poultry, which usually means chicken, constitute our list the greater part of the year, so we have to fall back on what we can get and see if there isn't a way of biling up a familiar cut to make it seem like something new. Have you tried mock duck? When it comes to the table, it looks like a duck, a neat browned roll dressed with a bit of parsley, but it's really a flank steak. This, of course, is one of the least expensive cuts of beef, so your household allowance for the table today will go a little further than usual. A flank steak is almost the only piece of beef which has no bone, and as there is little fat or other waste on it, 2 pounds will be enough for the average family. Be sure the butcher does not score it. Scoring, or cutting the surface, merely lets most of the delicious meat juices escape into the pan, and the result is a dry and tasteless dish. Directions for preparing the knock duck will be given under Today's Best Recipes, but in case you have never seen one, we'll say now that the flank steak is going to be stuffed and rolled, then braised in a covered roasting pan, and served with plenty of gravy. Mashed white potatoes go well with beef and gravy. Cook the potatoes just long enough for mashing and then drain them. The water in which they were cooked will be useful when you make your gravy. Warm the butter and milk, which are to be blended with the mashed potato and seasonings, before you put the potato with them. The melted butter makes the mixture easier to beat until it is light and fluffy. If necessary, mashed potatoes can be kept hot in a baking dish in the oven until the rest of the dinner is ready to serve, but they will be better if timed so that they are brought to the table immediately. Beets will undoubtedly be available for your other vegetable. At this time of year, they may be stored winter beets or the young spring beets from the market. Either kind is desirable, but each must be handled in a different way. The older beets should be soaked overnight before cooking and then cooked a much longer time than the young beets. Sometimes it takes 2 hours or more to make them tender. Young beets can be cooked in from 3/4 of an hour to an hour. Always leave at least an inch of the stem ends on beets so as to prevent what is called bleeding, or having the color run out. The skins are left on for the same reason. Put beets into boiling, slightly salted water to cook. To peel beets quickly when they are done, drop them for a moment into cold water, and the skin and stem can be slipped right off. Dice or slice them, season with salt and pepper, and reheat them for a few minutes in butter. Sugar may be added to the seasoning if you like it. Cold beets are so often put in weak vinegar and eaten as a relish that many people do not know any other way to serve beets. Try these hot buttered beets for a change if you have never had them. Some of your good sweet pickles will be excellent with this dinner, and possibly a glass of grape jelly. You do not need a salad, but if you wish to have one, cabbage salad is easily made. Cabbage is one of the most valuable winter vegetables we have as a source of vitamins, and should be eaten as often as possible until the season for other green leaf foods arrives. The whipped cream dressing described in the recipe, which will be given very shortly, adds a touch of luxury to this inexpensive meal, and also adds to its food value. Fruit canned last summer is just the thing for dessert. Serve a few simple cookies with it. If you have no home canned fruit, sliced oranges will help to supply the needed vitamins for the day, and oranges are fairly cheap now. if you'd like to have a more elaborate dessert, make a custard to go with the oranges. Or sprinkle them with shredded coconut. In the South, this combination is called ambrosia. This meal is attractive enough for company, but if you wish, you can have your favorite soup as a first course. Here's the entire menu: mock duck, mashed potatoes, gravy, buttered beets, pickles, jelly, cabbage salad, fruit with cookies. Today's pick of recipes. You have a pencil handy, of course, and paper or notebook to take down today's recipes? First, we're going to tell you how to make mock duck. Select a flank steak weighing 2 to 3 pounds. Do not have the butcher score it, or when you cook it, the juice will run out. Make a stuffing of the following ingredients: 1½ cups of stale bread. Soak this in warm water and squeeze it out until it is just moist. 1 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, 1 small onion, minced, 1/2 cup of celery, and 1/4 cup of finely chopped fat, which may be either beef suet or salt pork. Mix these well and spread the stuffing over the steak. Roll it up so that when cut for serving, you will cut through the grain. Fasten it with butcher's skewers or tie it with clean string. Roll the outside of the mock duck in flour, then sear the surface in a small amount of fat in a baking pan. Add more flour if necessary so as to have enough for brown gravy. When the meat is thoroughly seared on all sides, add a cup of water, cover closely, and cook until tender. This should require about 1½ hours. Add more water if necessary when making your gravy. When the meat is done, mix 2 tablespoons of fat with an equal amount of flour. Add the liquor from the meat pan and enough water, which may be that which you have drained from the potatoes, to make as much gravy as you need. If the steak had fat on it, there may be enough fat and also flour in the pan to make the gravy without adding any other. Cabbage salad has many possibilities. Either white, green, or curly cabbage may be used. Chop it fine and combine with a dressing made as follows. Beat 1/2 pint of thick whipping cream until stiff. Add 4½ tablespoons of lemon juice, 2 tablespoons of fresh grated horseradish, a grating of onion, a few drops of Tabasco, and salt to taste. These seasonings may be changed according to individual preference, but be sure there is enough dressing in proportion to the cabbage. Just a dash of cayenne pepper may be used if you do not have Tabasco. If the horseradish is in vinegar, use only 2 tablespoons of lemon. 1/2 pint of cream will make dressing enough for about 3 cups of finely chopped cabbage, which will serve 6 people. This salad may be used alone on a cabbage leaf, or it may be served on lettuce or on either. May be placed a slice of pineapple, and on that, a good thick covering of the cabbage salad. A still more elaborate salad may be prepared by adding grated cheese to the pineapple-cabbage combination. A very attractive way to serve this cabbage salad, if it is made from curly cabbage, is to hollow out the head and use it as a bowl from which the salad is served. The value of cabbage as a source of vitamins, especially when uncooked, cannot be pointed out too many times. Limbering up the sewing machine. The thought of spring sewing seems to take definite form when the sales of white materials begin soon after the first of the year. Housekeepers who do most of the family's sewing begin to pick up attractive bargains in linens or ginghams, and to scan the pages of the fashion books for styles that look interesting, but which are not too difficult to make. Formerly, it was customary to allow about 2 weeks every spring in the well-regulated households for spring sewing. In our modern scheme of living, however, it is seldom possible to devote any single stretch of time to sewing and nothing else. Dressmaking must be sandwiched in among many other household activities, and the secret of getting a lot done is to make practical advance preparations for this extra work. A little later, we will talk about the selection of good, quickly made designs for garments and shortcuts in doing the actual work. The very first preparation of all is to look over the tools and accessories, see that the outfit is complete and ready for use. This means having the scissors sharp, tape measure legible, the supply of pins, needles, threads, snaps, hooks and eyes, tape elastic, and similar findings replenished. But first and foremost, having that most important tool, the sewing machine, in good running order. Every machine needs cleaning at frequent intervals, even when in daily use. If the machine has been closed and unused for any length of time, it will probably need a thorough going over. After wiping and dusting it thoroughly, fill your oil can with kerosene and oil every part, including the treadle shaft and lower wheel axles if it is a foot-driven machine. Run the machine vigorously without thread until you are sure the kerosene has had a chance to loosen every hit of old, gummed-up oil and dirt. Then, put good quality machine oil in your can and oil the machine with that. Use light mineral oil or sperm oil or any special oil recommended by the makers of your machine. Wipe all accessible parts so there will be no likelihood of getting oil on your material. Thread the machine and work off on scraps some of the first thread that must pass through or near oiled parts. As an extra precaution to prevent accidental oil spots, tie a hit of wool around the presser foot post just above the needle. When the stitching on your scraps is clean, you can safely start to sew, but first look over several other details. See if the stitch is right for the use intended, and adjust the thumb screw that regulates the length of the stitch. Some women use the same stitch, whether they're making furniture covers or party dresses, and wonder why their clothes never look as attractive as those made by somebody else who uses a small stitch, fine thread, and a fine needle on nice materials. You can save energy, however, on draperies, sheets, and other household articles by using a medium stitch that covers the distance faster. Notice whether your tension is right for the thread and kind of material on which you expect to start sewing. Examine the belt to see if it is tight enough. Tired feet and aching backs are often due to working strenuously at the treadle when the belt slips. If the belt is slack, open it and cut off a ½ inch or more. Pinch the connecting wire back in place and see what a difference this one change makes. If you expect to do a great deal of sewing this season, this is a good time to consider the possibility of investing in an electric motor. Considerable valuable woman power is expended in pedaling. See if the presser foot and feed plate work right for the kind of material you are about to use. Sometimes a lot of lint and dirt gets caught under the feed plate. You can get it out by turning back the head of your machine. Lastly, see if you have needles of various sizes in good condition. Blunt and bent needles should be thrown away. Always use the correct needles for your make of machine, and keep a supply on hand to fit the sizes of thread you expect to use. Nothing is more discouraging to the home sewer than to break a needle and not find another of the same size to take its place. Strong coarse needles are needed for heavy work, but on thin materials they punch ugly big holes and spoil the appearance of the work. Get into the habit of closing up the machine when you stop work for the day. A little dust can undo all your efforts at cleaning up your machine and making it run easily. Questions women are asking. The next question is one which follows rather logically our home sewing talk. Question: are there any successful methods for setting the color in dyed fabrics? Answer: no. The household methods of soaking fabrics in salt, alum, pepper, vinegar, and various other solutions as a means of setting the color are largely a waste of time and materials. Though the color will not run from a dyed fabric as long as it remains in a saturated solution of salt or alum, this has no permanent effect on the dye. A fabric after treatment in this way is just as likely to fade when washed later in the ordinary way. No successful household methods of setting the color in dyed fairies are known. Rather discouraging this, but the next question sounds more hopeful. Question: are the wash fabrics faster in color than they were a few years ago? Answer: yes, a much larger proportion of them are fast, both to sun fading and water fading. This is because better dyes are being developed. The manufacturer realizes the loss to the consumer when colors are not fast. Some are guaranteed, others are not. It is a wise precaution to get a small sample when this is possible, and test it for both sun fading and water fading before using. Question: do you recommend shrinking goods before making up? Answer: shrinking is less necessary now than formerly because most garments do not fit so closely. It is objectionable in that it takes the original finish out of the garment. No wash material stays clean and fresh as long after it has once been laundered. Question: what method of shrinking do you recommend? Answer: if the material is left in its original folds and immersed in the bathtub in boiling water, it may then be lifted out and dried over a broom handle so as to make ironing almost unnecessary. Question: what makes a cake of chocolate appear white on the outside? Does this indicate any harmful change in the chocolate? Answer: this simply shows that the chocolate has been kept in an overwarm place. When pure chocolate is subjected to too high a temperature, even that above 80 degrees Fahrenheit, it melts and the fat rises to the surface. When the temperature is lowered again, this fat hardens and looks white in contrast to the brown of the chocolate itself. This does not injure it in any way for use. Question: what is the easiest way to make cocoa? Answer: there are 2 points to keep in mind in making cocoa. In the first place, it lumps quite easily, and in the second, it should be boiled to thicken it and develop a somewhat better flavor. If the dry cocoa is combined with sugar, the sugar separates the particles and prevents lumping. To this may be added a small amount of water or milk. Heat to boiling until it thickens, boiling 2 or 3 minutes, then all remainder of the milk and heat to serving temperature. Chocolate may be prepared in the same way, melting the amount of chocolate required in a small amount of water or milk with the added sugar. It is not necessary to grate the chocolate. When this is cooked smooth, add the remainder of the liquid. Question: why have the Dutch cocoas a somewhat different color than some of the other varieties? Answer: this is because of the addition of a small amount of alkali, which makes the cocoa darker and keeps it suspended in the liquid better. This treatment does not affect in any way the food value of the cocoa. Question: what foods should I eat to increase what the physician calls my alkaline reserve? Answer: milk, vegetables, and fruits are most helpful. Most of these are acid when eaten, but this acid is in a form which is burned in the body and releases the alkaline substances held in combination. Bananas are especially valuable in increasing the alkaline reserve. Question: I have found some little oval, reddish-brown, hairy worms or bugs under my living room carpet. What are they, and how shall I get rid of them? Answer: these are probably the grubs or larvae of the carpet beetle, which feed on fabrics of all sorts. You must get rid of them, or they will get into upholstered furniture, wool, silk, fur, or feather articles, much as clothes moths do. Give your rugs a thorough cleaning, beating, and sunning, and also any clothing in closets which you think may be susceptible. Wrap up articles that you are padding away for the season in tight packages with naphthalene flakes or paradichlorobenzene crystals, which you can usually get at a drugstore, just as you would to protect them from clothes moths. Fill up cracks in your flooring with putty or patented crack fillers before you put the rugs back, or treat them with gasoline or kerosene. Do not use these inflammable liquids when there is a lamp or fire in the room, and ventilate the room after using them. Well, this concludes this broadcasting of Housekeeper's Half Hour. I'm your host, Aunt Sammy. If you did indeed enjoy this broadcast, please consider listening to any of our other broadcasts. New shows are to be put out every week for new education and your listening pleasure. Until next time, remember to keep it tidy.
This production was researched and produced by BreakAway Empire LLC.